story: The Haunting in the Woods. The forest always held an air of mystery, but on this particular Friday the 13th, it seemed as if the trees whispered secrets to anyone who dared to listen. As my two friends and I ventured into the heart of those ancient woods, little did we know that we were embarking on an adventure that would forever change our lives. It had started like any other day, with the promise of a memorable adventure. My friends, Sarah and Alex and I, had grown up together, sharing a fascination with the woods that surrounded our small town. The stories of strange occurrences and spectral sightings that had been woven into the forest's legend only fueled our curiosity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows among the trees, we entered the forest. The air grew cool, and the rustling leaves whispered secrets of times long past. We followed a winding trail, surrounded by the ancient giants that had borne witness to countless events. With every step, the forest seemed to close in around us, as if it held us in its grasp. Shadows danced among the trees, and the silence was punctuated by the sound of rustling leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. It wasn't long before we stumbled upon an old, overgrown path. Though our instincts warned us to turn back, curiosity got the better of us. We followed the path deeper into the forest, where the trees seemed to grow denser, their branches intertwining like skeletal fingers. The whispers in the woods grew more pronounced, as if the forest itself were speaking to us. It beckoned us further into its depths, and we couldn't resist the eerie pull. We soon came upon a clearing where a gnarled ancient oak tree stood. Its roots protruded from the earth, creating a tangle of gnarled appendages that seemed to form a sinister face. Its bark twisted into an expression of malevolence. The clearing was bathed in a silvery moonlight, and in the center stood a forgotten well, a relic of a time long past. We gathered around it, drawn by its eerie presence. As we peered into the well's depths, a strange and unsettling sensation washed over us. Our reflections seemed distorted, our faces shifting as if they belonged to different times and places. The air grew heavy with foreboding, and a sense of unease settled in the pit of our stomachs. Sarah was the first to break the silence, her voice trembling as she spoke of the forest's strange pull. I agreed, and Alex nodded reluctantly, his eyes reflecting our shared trepidation. As we attempted to leave the clearing, we discovered that the path had disappeared. Panic set in as we realized that the forest had swallowed us whole, and our efforts to retrace our steps led only to an endless maze of trees. Time seemed to lose all meaning as we wandered deeper into the woods. The eerie stillness was broken by the sound of our own footsteps, and the dense fog that had descended around us left us disoriented. We couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched by unseen eyes, and the forest's whispers became a chorus of haunting voices, their words indecipherable yet laden with an ominous weight. It was then that we encountered a spectral figure, a cloaked and ethereal being that seemed to emerge from the very heart of the forest. Its eyes were empty voids, and its presence sent shivers down our spines. The entity beckoned to us, its bony finger pointing deeper into the woods. As fear constricted our hearts, we realized that we had no choice but to follow. The path grew increasingly treacherous, and the night seemed to stretch on endlessly. Our ordeal had transformed the forest into a malevolent entity, a realm where time and space lost their meaning. Just when we thought we were lost forever, a brilliant light filled the forest, and the oppressive darkness was banished. We stumbled out of the woods, shaken and horrified by what we had experienced. As we returned home, the memory of that chilling adventure continued to haunt us, a reminder that some mysteries should remain unsolved. The forest had shown us its malevolent side, leaving us with a sense of foreboding that would linger long after the events of that ominous Friday the 13th. Story 2: The Vanishing Skies. Flying through the Bermuda Triangle, an area infamous for its inexplicable disappearances, was never something I'd envisioned doing. But on that ill-fated evening, I found myself aboard an American Airlines plane, braving the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, unaware of the terror that lay ahead. The flight had started like any other, with passengers settling into their seats, flight attendants offering drinks, and the hum of the engines as we soared into the night sky. I was on my way to a business conference, and the thought of navigating the Bermuda Triangle had never crossed my mind. As the plane entered the notorious region, the air grew thick with an eerie stillness. The windows revealed a disconcerting void, an inky blackness that seemed to swallow the plane, its occupants, and all sense of time. Whispers of the supernatural and tales of vanishing vessels echoed in my mind, but I dismissed them as nothing more than superstitions. That was until the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, tinged with a hint of unease. He announced that the plane was experiencing technical difficulties and urged everyone to remain calm. However, the turbulence that followed was unlike any I had ever experienced. It was as if the plane had entered a tempest of unrestrained fury, shaking and convulsing with a menacing force. Panic erupted among the passengers, and the flight attendants hurriedly strapped themselves into their seats. The windows turned pitch black, shrouding us in darkness. We were enveloped by an unsettling silence that was only broken by the plane's violent rattling. As the turbulence continued, the passengers exchanged fearful glances, the sense of impending doom becoming palpable. The atmosphere inside the plane felt charged with an otherworldly energy. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the turbulence ceased. The plane emerged from the inky blackness, soaring into an azure sky as if nothing had happened. But the sense of dread lingered. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom once again, this time shaken and uncertain. He admitted that he was lost, that the plane's instruments had malfunctioned, and there were no recognizable landmarks below. Fear swept through the plane as we realized the gravity of our situation. We were adrift in the Bermuda Triangle, a place known for swallowing vessels whole and erasing them from existence. The cabin filled with a tension that was palpable, and the passengers exchanged anxious whispers about the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. We wondered if we had become the latest victims of its curse. Hours turned into days, and the plane's fuel dwindled. Desperation set in, and we knew that a crash landing was inevitable. With the ground below still unseen, our descent began. The impact was catastrophic. The plane collided with the ocean's surface, sending a thunderous shockwave through the cabin. Water rushed in, and the plane began to sink. In the midst of the chaos, I struggled to free myself from my seatbelt, my lungs burning for air. The cabin lights flickered and died, plunging us into darkness as the water continued to rise. Just as it seemed like all hope was lost, a brilliant light pierced the murky depths. The plane's shattered hull was torn open, and passengers were pulled to the surface by an otherworldly force. The sight that awaited us was beyond imagination. We found ourselves in a luminous, surreal world, a realm between the living and the departed, where countless vessels and aircraft rested, preserved in a timeless existence. We were not alone. Spirits of those who had vanished in the Bermuda Triangle lingered in this eerie dimension, their forms translucent and ethereal. They beckoned to us, their whispers a chorus of lost souls. The luminous world held an inexplicable serenity, a strange beauty that belied the horror of our predicament. But it was a beauty that offered no salvation, no escape from the Bermuda Triangle's grasp. Just as it had ensnared countless others, the Bermuda Triangle now held us in its otherworldly embrace. our lives forever bound to its mysteries. We had become part of its chilling lore, a haunting reminder that some mysteries are never meant to be unraveled. Story 3. Voyage of the Cursed Cruise. Friday the 13th dawned with an eerie blood-red moon hanging low in the sky, an omen that most would have taken as a warning, but not the passengers aboard the luxurious cruise ship, the Starlight Serenade. For them, it was a day of anticipation and excitement as they embarked on a journey they would never forget, steering straight into ghost-infested waters. The Starlight Serenade was a marvel of maritime luxury, a floating palace of gleaming marble, golden accents, and panoramic ocean views. It was a testament to opulence and comfort, and its maiden voyage promised to be a memorable one. As the passengers boarded the ship, they marveled at its grandeur and opulence. The crew was welcoming and hospitable, eager to provide a voyage that would be a lavish escape from reality. The air was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the anticipation of adventure. However, the crew held a secret that the passengers could not have imagined. They knew of the cursed waters they were about to enter, but a dark power compelled them to continue their course, lured by a promise of untold riches. As the ship sailed into the open sea, a palpable sense of unease settled over the passengers. The waters grew calm, too calm, and the sky darkened ominously. The crew members exchanged nervous glances, but they could not turn back. The clock struck midnight, and as Friday the 13th began, the ship steered into the cursed waters. The air turned cold, and a spectral fog enveloped the ship, obscuring the horizon. Whispers of ghostly apparitions and haunted ships began to circulate among the passengers. Some scoffed, but the unease grew and nervous laughter turned into hushed conversations in the dimly lit corridors. As the hours passed, strange occurrences began to unfold. Mirrors in the staterooms showed glimpses of ghostly figures, and the ship's pianos played eerie tunes of their own accord. The air was filled with whispered conversations from unseen entities, their voices filled with anguish and longing. Panic set in as the passengers realized that they were not alone. Ghostly apparitions began to appear, their hollow eyes and translucent forms sending shivers down their spines. These spirits bore the anguish of those lost at sea, their presence a haunting reminder of the cursed waters they had entered. The crew, driven by a dark force, struggled to maintain order as fear swept through the ship. The opulent halls and grand ballrooms transformed into ghastly, haunted chambers, their walls marred with the memories of the souls lost at sea. Desperation overtook the passengers as they tried to flee, but the ship's corridors seemed to shift and twist, leading them back to the haunted heart of the ship. It was as if the very vessel itself had become a malevolent force, a prison from which there was no escape. As Friday the 13th drew to a close, a brilliant light filled the ship, and the oppressive darkness was banished. The passengers stumbled out of the ship, shaken and horrified by what they had experienced. They had escaped the cursed waters, but the memory of that fateful voyage would haunt them forever. The Starlight Serenade had become a vessel of horror, a chilling reminder that some forces are beyond human understanding, and the price of greed can be greater than one can ever imagine.